Visual kei is a music genre originated and centered in Japan, which is characterized by the focus on flamboyant and shocking appearances or visuals. It's known for the fluidity in gender expression, as the vast majority of artists are male, but it's standard to be androgynous, wear makeup, and sometimes cross-dress. There are many subgenres and styles. This is why it's debated whether or not it's a genre, but the majority of music revolves around some type of rock. In this video I will take you through 7 eras of visual kei, from the 80s to 2010s, and show you how the scene evolved into what it is today. The movement was started by Japanese rock bands in the 80s with distinct, extravagant and androgynous styles and fiery performances, bands taking inspiration from glam rock, goth rock and punk scenes prevalent at the time. Bands sported huge tees and spike hairdos, dramatic makeup and flamboyant clothes. While resembling the fashion of Western musicians like Adam Ant and Motley Crue, it was unique and stood out as a new style. While groups mostly had influence from classic rock and such, each band had their own sound. One of the first pioneers of the scene, and the most successful band from it, debuting in 1982, were X Japan. Their early work features rapid, precise drumming, distorted rhythm and lead guitars playing fast riffs with plenty of palm muting, epic chords, and shredding solos, intricate bass lines, and melodic yet powerful vocals with harmonies. This heavy, speed, thrash metal style, with new wave of British heavy metal influences, was later replaced with rock ballads. Another important and successful band was Buck-Tick, debuting in 1984. Their earliest work was up-tempo rock with punchy drums, strong loud bass lines, dreamy ringing guitar with lots of chorus reverb, and melodic rhythmical vocals. Gradually, their music became darker, more dramatic and erotic, keeping features from their early work, but making slower, ethereal songs as well, using more synth. Their influences ranged from punk to goth to new wave, with a lot of experimentation. A more niche early band debuting in 1980 is Automod. Their unique sound includes spooky synth, Middle Eastern scales, drum machine loops, minimal instrumentation, airy guitar chords, quick bass and drums, and stylized echoing vocals. Their style is very gothic and post-punk, with definite Bauhaus influence. They are pioneers of positive punk, the early name for goth, but developed differently in Japan. The term visual kei was coined by magazine editor Seiichi Hoshiko, derived from the slogan "Psychedelic Violence Crime of Visual Shock" from the cover of X Japan's second studio album. This categorized these bands into a genre because of their focus on visual appeal. Visual kei was now in the mainstream, and in the early 90s came the birth of some of the most important, successful and influential bands of the movement. At this point, there started being more variation in band styles. A subgenre that became popular was soft visual, which includes bands Glay and L'Arc-en-Ciel. This was a toned-down version of visual kei with palatable looks and a pop-rock musical style, making it perform best on the charts. Many bands that started out with an eccentric style, such as Kura Yume, which we'll get to later, switched to soft visual for bigger success. The look usually consisted of short hair, light makeup, and fashionable brand clothing, commonly button-ups and trousers. Shazna, debuting in 1993, was a soft visual band, but part of the romantic wave of the decade. Their songs feature up-tempo drumming with bass following, dreamy harmonized layered guitars with distortion, smooth melodic singing, catchy repeating hooks, and lyrical themes of love. Another subgenre that rose in this era was Nagoya kei, named after the city it was most prevalent in and categorized by dark, gloomy, and theatrical elements. The two giants of Nagoya were popular bands in the region that pioneered the scene. The first was Silver Rose, a hard rock band more typical of the wider genre, and the second was Kura Yume, who was darker and more violent. As they grew in popularity, the term was more associated with their unique look and sound. New bands in the genre were said to follow the dark path of Kura Yume. Their musical style included tight drums, distorted rhythm guitar, strumming chords, glassy lead guitar ringing out notes and arpeggios, quick precise bass, dramatic nasal vocals with a lot of inflections, dark minor and dissonant melodies, and songs ranging from gothic ballads to aggressive chaotic punk. They were influenced by the darker side of early visual kei, like positive punk. Common fashion for Nagoya kei bands was long hair, usually in front of the face, black and white clothes, leather, chains, bandages, and gothic makeup with pale skin and dark lips and eyes. Another band that rose into popularity was Malice Mizer. Formed in 1992, they were the first to do Tanbi kei, inspired by decadent 1700s France. They wore elaborate costumes with ornate embroidery, dramatic silhouettes, and white faces, and meticulously styled hair, looking like Rococo royalty. Their music fit the image and added neoclassical elements like organ, harpsichord, choir, synth, and interpolations of classical music passages to the iconic 90s Visual Kei sound. The late 90s was the scene's peak in popularity and the era that is most iconic to fans and artists. The bands Lacrima Christi, Fanatic Crisis, Shazna, and Malice Mizer were dubbed the four heavenly kings of Visual Kei and had their highest sales in this era. Interestingly, all except Malice Mizer was soft visual. The subgenre that was most prevalent and well remembered from this time is Kote Kei, which evolved from Nagoya Kei and has similar dark, aggressive, and theatrical themes. It took influences from metal as well as punk and rock, resulting in rough, fast, and loud music. Its purpose was to be violent, grotesque, and as shocking as possible. Some bands from this era are Desha Bills, Madeth Grail, and Alien Mariage. Musicians were clad in over-the-top costumes made of PVC, leather, lace, and gauze with plenty of chains, straps, and blood. All black, sometimes with bright accent colours, usually in hair. Makeup often featured white face paint, thin arched brows, black or red lipstick, and black around the eyes with a line coming from one to symbolise a bleeding eye. The combination of extreme visuals, dramatic and messy music, and lyrics about insanity and violence made the genre seem overly edgy and juvenile to some. The most important Kote band who established the subgenre was Dir Grey. They were quick to gain huge recognition, being the first indie band to play Budokan, less than 2 years after their formation. Their discography had a lot of range, from a discordant fast blend of punk and metal with scratchy guitars, racing drums, and aggressive vocals, to rock songs with melodic vocals, layered, glassy, and heavy guitars, and many shifts in dynamics, all of which being bass-driven. Their unique style combines aspects of classic Visual Kei and modern, at the time, metal. This era was fueled by iconic bands from previous eras such as Bucktick, X Japan, and Lunacy continuing to rise in sales and becoming famous nationwide. By the new millennium, the hype around the scene died down due to a number of causes. Firstly, a lot of bands stopped activity, sometimes due to non-renewal of contracts. This was made worse by the biggest bands in the genre disbanding, such as X Japan, Lunacy, Malice Mizer, Shazna, and more, which removed the main sources of attention and fans. Another reason was the oversaturation of Kote Kei as hundreds of bands started appearing, all copying the same things, causing a lack of new subgenres. One new scene that developed around this era was Osara Kei, Japanese for fashionable. This started in 2002 when band Baroque emerged, dressing in street fashion, singing ironic lyrics, and adding a jazz flair to their songs. Their popularity and the oversaturation of Kote Kei began a wave of Kote bands ditching their style for the cheeky and unusual evolution that was trending. By 2004, a second wave of Osara bands hit the scene, this time poppier, cuter, and more colourful. The most popular band, debuting in 2003, was An Cafe. They described their musical style as Harajuku dance rock, combining overdriven pop-punk guitar, jazzy bass, punchy drums, EDM synths, and expressive nasal vocals in stripped-back verses and melodic choruses. Osara bands often wore various patterns like checkers and polka dots, streetwear elements like ties, glasses, and hats, and mainly black and white with colourful accents, commonly pink and red, and kept short, straightened hair and minimal makeup. Another prominent subgenre that arose in this period was Loud Kei, categorized by influence from genres like metalcore, deathcore, and screamo, and more toned down and masculine looks. In 2002, Dir Grey shifted their sound from the classic Kote Kei they were known for to something more resembling nu metal, and eventually abandoned their visuals to a look more accepted worldwide. Bands like Girugamesh and Sadie began popping up in 2004, with the same emo suits and western-inspired sound. A well-known first-wave Loud Kei band was Lynch, formed in 2004, and Loud describes their music well. The vocals go from guttural growls to melodic singing and choruses, and are accompanied by crunchy distorted guitars, abrasive drums, and lots of screeching and feedback. The metalcore influences are heard in the combination of chugging and harmonic chords. Loud Kei bands sported short, spiky, straightened hair, minimal makeup, with smoky eyes, and sleek, mainly all-black suits, coats, flared jeans, leather jackets, and cowboy boots. Some bands from the first wave of Osara Kei, like Kra, followed the pop direction, while others, like Shola, kept their Kote elements, so it didn't make sense to label them as Osara. This created Kote Osa, a descriptor for bands that mix the two extremes. It's common for music of this subgenre to abruptly switch between poppy and heavy sections. This label became associated with bands like Lolita 23Q, who incorporated electronic elements like synths, rises, and robotic vocal effects with classic visual kei elements like chorusy arpeggios, fast springy drums, over-driven guitar, and a mix of nasal over-the-top vocals and guttural screams. The mix of influences ranging from pop-punk, EDM, and metalcore make it sit in the middle of Kote and Oshara Kei. Kote Osa bands mix the two styles of their predecessors, wearing costumes with Kote silhouettes and Oshara colours, often colour coordinated to each member. Costumes featured lace, fur, PVC, patterns, buckles, and more over-the-top decor. Short and spiky hair, with feminine members often wearing pigtails. The makeup was more on the simpler side, with thin, straight, angled brows, dark eye makeup, natural skin and lips, and sometimes cute touches such as stickers. Another evolution of Oshara Kei was Kira Kira Kei. By 2007, the genre was considered dead by some, with bands that had been active for years maturing. New bands debuted, playing a smoothed-out evolution of Oshara, with an approachable pop-rock sound. The name Kira Kira means sparkling, relating to the sound of the music and the glittery costumes worn. Sparkles are also seen in music videos, band photos, and posters, and fans wave light-up ones at concerts. A typical Kira Kira Kei band is Vivid, debuting in 2009. Their sound consists of smooth melodic vocals, as opposed to the nasal expressive style of Oshara. Distorted guitars accompanied by synths, sparkly sound effects, punchy drums, and songs featuring solos and heavy breakdowns. Dynamics are usually quieter in verses, letting the choruses pop. Bands wear colourful costumes with a lot of glittery, shiny, and glossy fabrics, a lot of the time resembling Japanese idol uniforms. They appear more professionally styled compared to other subgenres. Hair is kept short and usually straightened and spiky, sometimes with M-shaped fringes. Makeup is more on the natural side, with small eyeliner, thin coloured brows, no lipstick, and sometimes a cute flourish like a colourful mark. A genre that started in the 2010s is Menhera Kei, a genre revolving around dark themes. Unlike Nagoya and Kote Kei, which were dark in a sadistic and theatrical way, Menhera Kei followed a masochistic, realistic approach, with lyrics about self-harm, suicide, and sexual deviancy. Instead of playing characters, they sung from the perspective of mentally ill teenagers also being their fans. The band that popularized these themes within visual kei was Arashite, who in 2012 released a single titled I Am Menhera, sung as a young outcast using wrist-cutting and suicide to escape the despair of life. The song features melodic nasal vocals, spoken parts, and guttural screams in various sections, including breakdowns, punchy choruses, and abrupt switches in dynamics in verses and pre-choruses. The guitar is distorted, chugging, and playing a minor Kote-esque melody. The drums carry the song and are complicated and hard-hitting. The bass is hidden behind the guitar riffing, but mainly follows the rhythm guitar. The Kote influences are clear, but it has a more modern approach, taking some inspiration from metalcore. Bands usually wear black, white, and red, basic layered clothing like button-up shirts, blazers, and tight trousers. Elements of school uniform are sometimes incorporated, and accessories include eye patches, bandages, bloody noses, and bruises. Hair is often styled big and frizzy, with long fringes. For the makeup, faces are usually pale, often with messy red lipstick, heavy dark contour, and dark heavy eye makeup, sometimes with aegyo style. This subgenre is still popular today, especially with international fans. Some notable bands are Gulu Gulu, Kaneto Jusei, and 0.1G something. My favourite era is early 90s, as I like the gothic sound and aesthetics of Nagoya Kei the most. Some of the most iconic bands like Malice Mizer formed, and the bands from the 80s like Bucktick were peaking, and I also prefer the more pop-adjacent music, soft visual of the time, compared to the more recent subgenres like Oshara Kei. In the future, I think loud kei will start incorporating elements from hardcore as it is becoming more popular right now, and bands have been influenced by metalcore and deathcore in the past, which is similar. I also think Menhera Kei will die out in a few years and either evolve into more serious, depressing subgenre or be outsold by something lighter and cuter. This research will help me with my project as I have found more bands that I can take inspiration from musically and visually. I can use the visual aspect of the genre as a way to market myself and have a unique selling point.